to another episode of WGM&x podcast. Before we even get started, I need to apologize to you guys because we had technical difficulties. So when you have technical difficulties, like Ms. Go-Getter just said, don't let it defeat you, and it did. But nevertheless, today is Wednesday, February the 9th, 2022. Our episode tonight is entitled Miche. So we have a special guest, Miss Linda Alston. Miss Alston, how are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I feel like because we just did it like 30 minutes ago, it's like, oh man, what are we doing? But anyway, so our topic tonight is Miche. But before we get into the topic, Miss Linda, can you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Linda Alston, technically Linda Alston, period. However, no, I'm not married. I'm very much single. I'm going to put that out there in the atmosphere. I'm teasing. So, yeah, that's who I am, born and raised in Suffolk, Virginia,
Okay.
In the lake. So everyone, everyone in Suffolk knows everybody. So
Right.
they would probably, Alston is the name that most people know me by. So.
Okay. Great. Well, we are glad that you accepted our invitation to come on WGM&x podcast, and we thoroughly appreciate you saying yes.
Okay.
Because you could have said no.
True.
But you said yes, so I was like, okay, all right, okay, God, I see you. So like I said, our title tonight, our topic rather, is my Miche. And for those of you who don't know, Miche is Miss Linda's daughter.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about Miche, who she was as a young girl and all that good stuff?
Okay. So many know Miche, especially in the 757, but I know that you guys are doing such a phenomenal job that you reach people far beyond these borders. So,
Right.
Miche, who is still here with me, I cannot and will not ever reference her in the past tense as her mom. It's just too difficult to do that. But Miche passed away. February. Okay.
Since we not
Okay, good.
using them.
Good. Yeah, she passed away in 2020, February 1 in 2020, and but her spirit, her fight, her journey, people still feel to this day.
Right.
As many people may not know, Miche was diagnosed when she was 16 years old with Epithelioid Sarcoma, and that is a soft tissue cancer. It kind of started in her great toe, and it looked just like a mole, nothing to be alarmed by it, and it continued to get a little worse from there. But just like any other teenager, Miche was a total tomboy as a young lady growing up in Suffolk. Went to Nansemond, but she played basketball. She was in marching band, very active, and so she's very much missed.
Right.
So it's still difficult to talk about, but once we realized and understood that the type of cancer that she was dealing with, we made a decision as a family to not question God, to not do the why and me's and all of that, just face it head on and do what we had to do.
So she found out because she had something on her toe?
Yeah, so she, Miche had a bad habit of, her and her brother used to play basketball in street ball.
Okay.
And she would go out whenever they were out there, him and his friends playing with no shoes on in front of the house playing her game. So she had a horrible habit of doing that. And this particular day she got a piece of glass in her toe. And, I did the normal peroxide, all the other stuff to try to get it out. And it seemed to be fine, but it developed like a little tiny brown mole looking. And when I say tiny, I mean something
very small,
a pinhead size. And it from there just started to bother her. It remained sore and achy, and it just it got to a point that we ended up taking her to different doctors and specialists, and no one knew what it was. And they originally misdiagnosed her.
So how long did they not know what it was? Like, do you remember?
It took about 6 months for them to try to, we went to the foot doctor, and then, allergy doctors, skin doctors, different things like that, dermatologists, and it was finally at the EVMS Dermatology Center that they kind of discovered what it was.
Okay, so when they misdiagnosed her, did they do it like maybe once or twice, or just each time they went, everybody said something different, or how did that go?
So because I'm totally a mama bear, so as I continued to press them and ask questions, they misdiagnosed her, but they had never gotten back with me on it yet. It was about 6 weeks. So in the pressing, behind the scenes, they were probably, it's just the way that, God worked in that situation. They happened to take her particular scans and things to North Carolina, to Chapel Hill. And the Army there, it was an Army doctor there. It was pulled up on the screen, and they were just showing her case. And that particular doctor said, you guys have totally misdiagnosed this young lady, and if you don't correctly diagnose her, she's gonna die. So, yeah. So the next day they called me, they told us about it, and Miche smiled through the whole thing. She was like, okay. It was nothing to her at the time. And she continued to have that attitude the whole way through. She was just phenomenal to be able to take on that pain, that entire journey with such a champion's heart.
So when they say that God gives his battle to the toughest soldiers, that was definitely in alignment with her and who she was as a person.
Absolutely.
So if it was somebody else, we don't know how the outcome could have been.
That is true, because originally they said that she would possibly live 5 to 7 years, and so she definitely proved them wrong when it came to that. But she was the only African American at the time that was, and we are in Black History Month, so since we are there, let me say that at the time there were no known African Americans that had this particular cancer, so it was already rare, and on top of that was even more rare, and then the particulars about her cancer was even more rare than that. So probably 0.1% of the world's population even had epithelioid sarcoma.
That's, so at that time, how were you, like, what was going through your mind as a mother bear? Always, I see you as a protective parent.
Very protective.
If you could take anything or do anything, you would do just that. So how were you at that point?
So for me, my faith is the one thing that has always gotten me through, but I have just determined to help my child beat this thing. So my face was already set like flint, like this is what it is, this is what we have to do, and to encourage her. So my prayer actually was, my sincere prayer was, one, I wanted to be able to take it from her, and when I know that wasn't going to be the way things were going to go, my prayer at that time was, Lord, if you could just allow her to live her normal life, and every emotion that she could possibly go through that's negative, that would drag her down, give it to me. And that was my sincere prayer, and she lived her life, and trust me, I felt like I was going through it every moment of the day, and I was like, did I really pray that prayer? But it was totally all worth it, because she was able to continue on to do the things she wanted to do. Nothing stopped her. She fought cancer, got her chemo, did everything, but still graduated from Virginia State University with honors, and went on with get her master's from Regent University. I think it was summa cum laude. So she continued to do her thing.
So she definitely didn't let it defeat her. So she actually, a lot of people say when people pass on that they lost their battle, but she actually won her battle.
She won her
and
battle.
She was doing it. During her trials, she was still doing what she wanted to do and how she wanted to do it.
Absolutely, because one of those things that along this journey in 2013, she became pregnant. And it wasn't by osmosis, but you know,
Right.
she became pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a struggle for me. That was probably my greatest test because in that time frame, I knew the consequences of trying to carry a baby full term. And she was determined then. She was like, this is what it is. You know, we might have conceived this child out of wedlock,
Right.
but this is still God's miracle, my blessing, and I am going to see it through. And she did, and I am grateful that she did. I know her other grandparents are grateful.
Right.
The entire family is on all sides, because she
Right.
has a huge village. Miche's
That's
daughter. So yeah,
That's
we're
actually
we're
good.
blessed.
So how were you when you heard that she was, expecting? Like, where were you at with it? Like, God, now I gotta deal with this, now I gotta deal with that.
Yes, and so we were very active in the church. That was part of it too. So that's already in the back of my mind. Miche's faith. She loved the Lord. I mean, she was set. Like, she knew without a doubt what and who God was to
Right.
her, and she never carried doubt when it came to her situation. But for me, I was looking at it not out of not having the faith.
Mm-hmm.
Really was, this is just the medical part of this journey. You know, you would have to physically carry this child, and your body go through all these different changes.
Right, absolutely.
And you have to give that child everything of you, and what will you have left? Not to mention she had to come off chemo, the one chemo that was working to do it.
Wow.
Yeah, and once she came off the chemo, she could never go back on it, and
Are
she
you
made
serious?
it. Yeah, she was on
Wow.
she was on a clinical trial. They had no treatment. It was a terminal cancer from the beginning, but so for me, I'm like, no,
Right, absolutely.
no. You could do this another time. No, but she wasn't having it.
Yeah,
She wasn't having it.
So that lets me know that she was very stern. Like, if she believed in something, she was gun ho on it.
Absolutely.
It was kind of hard changing her mind.
Yes.
But when you look back and you look at all of what Miche went through, as a mother, how did that make you feel? Like, in the moment, like, because sometimes when your kids are hurting and they are, they can have a little superficial scratch,
Right.
but they're acting like it.
Yeah.
It's to where they need some stitches, right? But how did you feel as a parent and seeing your child go through some of the things that she went through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to take that on. I would not have. That was something that I went to God for all the time. Like, just let me take that burden. And she would tell me, Mom, you can stop saying that prayer, because this is my battle. He gave it to me.
Wow.
And it is what it is. We're gonna get through this. It truly is because of her strength and the way she carried it that I was able to be her backbone the way I was. Because if she was the type of person going through this journey, now we was in offices where we hear grown men fall out, rolling around, crying the moment they got diagnosed, and she would giggle and be like, "Oh, Mom, and she was like, maybe we should go talk to him." I was like, Miche, we're not doing that. It's just, that's who she was. She wanted to spread that faith with everybody, like, it's gonna be okay. But really, I wanted to take that from her. That was one thing that I really wish that if I could trade places with her, I would do it to this day.
Right.
Because she has so much to give to the world and so much to offer. And I wanted her to be able to see Amor continue to grow and do the things that she wanted Amor to do, that I would, to this day, still change places with her. But yeah, she definitely made it easy. She made it easier, I should say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
We have a question.
Okay, so we have a question, and the question is, what were some of the signs, in order for you to take her to the hospital or to the doctor's office, what were the signs that you was having, the symptoms, basically?
Okay. Great question. So, to be honest, once she cut her toe on the glass, the signs became just soreness. So she was, again, in marching band. She played flute and the piccolo.
Okay.
She loved that thing, first seat at one point. But at Nansemond River, Mr. Woodis, who was her band director at the time, she was out practicing, and she was in so much pain that he called me. He was like, Miche won't get off the field. She's determined, but she's crying and marching. Can you come pick her up?
Yeah.
And that let me know. So it was just excruciating pain was the sign. It was nothing else. Her entire life, we wouldn't have known had it not been for the glass. See, for me, that was just God. That's just how He works.
It was.
You know, if she wouldn't have cut,
up to it. It was giving you.
we
signs
wouldn't have
then.
never known that cancer would have ran rapid in her body without any signs until it was too late. Because from what I understand, from all, trust me, I've eaten this research.
I'm sure.
From breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But from all of what I understood through Johns Hopkins is where she was a patient at, that most people found out when it was too late. So by the time they found out, it was already
stage 4 and
right
terminal,
and terminal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
A great question.
It was definitely nobody but God, because I was listening to something a couple of weeks ago, and they were saying that we don't pay attention, but a lot of times, most of the times, we get the signs, but we miss it because we're not still. We're going about our day doing whatever, and some type of warning has came, but we missed it.
We missed it.
We missed it.
Yeah, and her pain was definitely something that couldn't be ignored. But the craziest thing is, you know, we had a dog, a pit bull. Dog was just crazy.
I had a big dog.
We had a very large dog, but this dog was so extremely protective of her, and he always laid across her foot.
What?
The exact
That was
foot.
protection.
It's like the dog sensed
No,
it, and as I go back now, I was like, okay, so that's why you were so crazy.
So do you
And
guys still
behind
have a
her.
dog now?
Diamond passed away before she did, but yeah.
You know what? I'm sorry. I did read that on her page.
Well, that was her other dog. She and Amora had a little dog.
Oh, the little dog.
And she,
Okay.
she
Okay.
was toe up behind that dog. Yeah.
Because I was keeping up with Miche,
Chloe.
and Chloe.
Chloe was her
that's
dog,
name.
and Eric
That's her name.
actually purchased that for her before they had Amora. So she had Chloe a year before Amora, and so she, she
Great.
took that really, really hard.
Really hard, yeah. I'm sure. So Amora is here. She's how old now?
Amora's 8.
She's 8. So she's
Yes.
growing up.
She
She's
is.
tall.
She is tall.
She's tall.
She's tall. She's tall.
So
but she's
how-
a blessing.
I'm sure. How is it now that, because you basically raised your kids, right?
Yep. My
and
baby
now
girls.
you're doing it all over again.
I am, but I wouldn't have thought twice about it because, I didn't think twice about it when Miche asked me, after Amora's dad passed away.
Right.
When she said, "Mom, now it was supposed to be. Now it's you."
Yeah.
And she cried. She was so hurt by that because she was like, "It's not fair. You have raised all 3 of us. Bree's no baby anymore, and we wanted you to live your life. I had relocated to DC for a while, but in 2017 I came back once she got her leg amputated to take care of her. So I was in DC for like 4.5 years because she was doing great.
Right.
They were going about her life, graduating, enjoying life, and even though she was still battling cancer, and I was still coming back every Friday, taking her to Johns Hopkins, which that was something that we did, and we made the best of it and had a great time. We became best friends in that 4 hours there and 4 hours back every day. But yeah, when I think about Amor, who is so much like both her parents, it's a blessing, but even in that is God. Yeah. Even in that is God. So yeah.
And I'm sure, like on you guys' journeys back and forth, God allowed. There He is again. He allowed you guys to have that time.
Yeah.
To actually bond, because when you're a child and you're growing up, you kind of like, I don't know, like for her, but like for me, kind of went away from your mom.
You do.
So and it's like now we're in a position where going back to my mom.
Yeah.
And then we're going through this thing together. So I'm sure she was grateful to have you by her side.
Yeah.
And then asking questions, because a lot of times people go to doctors and they won't ask questions.
Right.
Doctors are not going to just tell you,
That is
hey, you have a cold, and this
Right.
is where the cold came from. If you don't ask questions, they're just gonna say, oh, that's what it is, and just going about your way.
true. Right.
But being that you were so inquisitive, and that's your baby.
That's my baby. I
So
needed
you
to know
wanted
what
to
was
know
going on.
what you needed, all the information behind it. So
Yeah.
I thank God for you,
Well, thank you. Thank
and you definitely don't look like what you have been through,
thank you.
so that's a plus as well. But I wanted to ask you, being that Amore's mother nor father is here,
Mhm.
how is that like for her? Like, did she ever ask you, hey, I'm thinking about my mom, thinking about my dad?
Yeah, we talk about them constantly. So
Okay.
that's the other thing. There's not a day that we don't bring up her parents. Like,
Okay.
and there are moments that we can joke a little bit.
Mhm.
Because Miche is very, I thought I was a strict parent, but Miche was strict.
Right.
Very strict. Amore got away a lot more with her dad,
Right.
because Eric is very laid back. He's just
Mhm.
laid back or whatever. He got on him when he needed to, but Miche was so strict, and the disciplinarian when it comes to making sure, look, scholarship first.
Right.
You're gonna get this education. So Amore, poor thing, she couldn't catch a break. But we laugh sometimes because there were times that if Miche ever decided to discipline her,
Mhm.
we would joke her because Miche would just tap on that back. So
Right.
when Miche did that, we all would laugh. But with the more in the house, if she does anything, I said, "Do I need to tap that back?" And
Right,
she'd be
right.
like, "Oh, Lord," she'll fall out. My mommy
Right.
did enough of that. I mean,
Right,
so
right.
yeah, she jokes about
That,
it. We joke a little bit. But she did get therapy.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
Lots
that,
of
I believe that
Lots of
actually
counseling.
helps. That counseling helps, and it's good
It's
that
necessary.
that you're actually on it, because some parents, especially when it comes to the Black African American community,
Absolutely.
we kind of shy away from that.
We do.
But if we want to, bring our kids up and make sure that they have a healthy life, we have to do what we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I remember watching some of her videos, and I would be bawling because I saw it wasn't that it was, you could see the pain and stuff like that, but you can just feel. You can just feel it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
that girl's strong. I'm telling you, I said that girl's strong because there's no
Yeah.
way possible. And to me, I felt when I looked at the videos, it was like she was journaling, but just through video
Yes.
of her, progress or whatever, and then to maybe hopefully it's something that Amore can look back on.
Yes, and that's the blessing. They both had their social media platforms popping
Right.
all the time. So that is a good thing, because we do get to utilize those things. So Amore never forgets her voice. She
Right.
prays every night before she go to bed. She still pray for her mom and daddy angels. They're there by her side. So yeah, we talk about them all the time. Part of the family and extended family was a huge thing in her well-being as well.
Okay.
Of course, in the house, she has her Aunt Bree, and then of course Charlton came back from California, so he lives here now. So we had
Okay.
that, and then she has her grandma Lisa. So she
has
her
a village,
granddad.
yeah.
She had, this village is so huge and so strong, and then my sister. So she has so many people. Her granddad, so on.
Right.
Well, she got more granddads than anything. I'm like, well,
Like, Ronnie granddad.
two grandmamas, but she
Right.
got granddads all over the place. So I don't know how we collected all these, but we do. We have a lot of
Right.
granddads, and yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, that actually is. We have a question, Ms. Gogita?
Yes, we have
All right,
two.
let's go. Yeah.
Well, we have a few questions. Okay, so we have a question from Aisha Edwards. Do you feel Johns Hopkins was the best choice? In your opinion, do you feel there are any oncologists in Virginia that stand out to you?
Ooh, so absolutely, Johns Hopkins was a blessing, and that was all God. In this journey, one thing you have to do when you are going through anything is that you have to trust the process.
Right.
And you got to trust, and your prayer should always be, okay, God, line me up with the right people, and you just gotta believe that that's what he's done. So along this entire process, Johns Hopkins once we started going to them, they were great. Here in Virginia, we work with Dr. Cross. I think he's out of Virginia Beach, and he was phenomenal. They fought for her because we did try to go to Duke once things got, but Duke didn't have the answers. No one really had a clinical trial. It's a little different from breast cancer or, cervical cancers that have been is
Studied,
well known
right.
or studied, or more than a lot of people may have been diagnosed with their treatments for those.
Mm-hmm.
There was absolutely nothing for Miche, so they was just really throwing stuff at it, and let's see if that stick. But the one thing that I can say about those that got aligned to Journey, and his name is Scott Cross, they care for her like she was their child.
Mm-hmm.
Like they studied different trials for her. They scoured the earth for her. I mean, because we went to Boston and we went to Duke, and John Hopkins was the only one that had the help, had what she needed at the time.
Well, you answered the question for the second. I mean, you answered, the question for the second one, which was why did you travel so far, which you just explained that in reference to John Hopkins was really good, and they had good studies and everything. But we also want to tell Vic Kayla, thank you for the stars. And then Catriel Gamsut, she just wants to pretty much give you kudos for being so gracious and fluent with speaking about Miche.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Now, I understand you were saying about the different organizations as far as the hospitals, and the only thing I can come up with is God. Like, throughout, even though sometimes you guys may have felt however you felt, God still had his hands on the situation.
He did. He never took his hands off. He never took his hands off. She received the greatest care there. They looked out for her coming and going. So, I mean, it was nothing that they wouldn't have done. One is because she was so young. And two, she had so much fight in her.
Right.
And they refused to give up on her. Nowhere we went, anybody was willing to give up on her because of just that. They were like, no, if she can continue on. I mean, at the point of having an amputation, she was up the next day walking around with her crutches like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
When she got her toe amputated, because that was the very first surgery, when she had her toe amputated, it was right before prom.
Okay.
So 7 days later, she got her toe amputated. I take that back. She got her toe amputated in February. Of course, prom was in May, I want to say.
Right.
So yeah, by that time, she was in her heels and she was dancing and having a ball. So she was ready. So she allowed nothing to hold her back. It didn't matter the diagnosis, the situation. She was determined. And I like to think that the faith that my dad passed down to me, I passed down to her, and trust and believe more is covered in it.
Right.
So, yeah.
She's covered by the blood.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
on your rough days, how do you deal? Like, what do you do? How do you decompress?
So, I like to drive, but the biggest thing is I drive and pray. I like to pray. I like to drive. I talk to God. So, we have frank conversations. And I tell people, it doesn't have to be that deep. It doesn't have to be that long and drawn out. You just have a conversation. 9 times out of 10, it end up long out because you're crying, you're whining, you're doing all those things. But one thing that I refuse to do is to do the, woe is me. It was, wow, it's me. This is really what you gave me to do. And I didn't take the focus off of who it was about or what it was about. And it was always Miche. So for me, my prayer was always to continue to just give her that strength. And I really didn't focus on myself throughout the journey of how I felt. Because people would say, you're so strong. She's strong. So my job is to make sure she stays strong. So I have to stay healthy. I have to stay well. I have to do what I have to do because I'm not gonna let her fall
Oh, God,
with
yeah.
by the wayside,
Right.
for any reason. But yeah, that really was my thing. And I write. I do poetry.
Okay.
So writing was huge for me.
Mm-hmm.
Praying, absolutely, and driving. I love to
Driving.
take long drives.
So you like when you driving, do you take like the scenic route, or you do the highway?
I
You
do
just-
it.
just
I do
drive.
it. I just drive. I really like the drive. I'm always into traffic, but if I love the drive going through to Williamsburg.
Okay.
It's better now that it's opened up a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but different hours, I love it. But when I can, I'll go in my closet, because I never wanted. Raising my children, I never let them know what was going on. So they didn't know
Okay.
if there was a bill late. They didn't know.
Sure.
I took, that's just how I am. And
Mhm.
even when it was an issue in the marriage,
Right.
before it was a divorce, they would be like, well, what you going to divorce for? Everything is great, because
Right.
I'm the type that I'm extremely private.
Okay.
Surprised I'm even up here talking. But,
See, it's all God.
but I kept things from them because I don't believe that the children need to be children, and they don't need to carry your burdens. That's not why, you brought them into the world. You handle what you have to handle. In some cases, you can build their character, their faith, if they
Right.
understand mama's struggling, she got to pay this bill. But for me, you focus on them grades.
Right.
So you
yeah.
can get up and get out
Yeah.
when it's time.
It's
I'm not
time.
gonna take care of you all your life. Get up and get out. So that was the
Absolutely.
way, and it's the same thing with Miche. I didn't want her to work while she was in college.
Mhm.
Brianna, no, you don't need a job while you're at Howard. So those are the things that I just, as a mom, it's like, no, focus, please,
Yeah.
and get out. So I can get off my.
So let me ask you this: when Miche was going through her battle, and especially towards the end, did she tell you like certain things? Because I can see her, and I don't know. I'm just saying, I can see her saying, "Mom, this, that, and the third. I want this, that, and the third for Amore. I want,
Yeah, we've always had those conversations
Okay.
though in our long journeys. I knew her well. I knew
Okay.
I don't want to say best, because then her siblings will start a war like
Right.
they knew her better than me. So I'm not even gonna go there with them today, because I know I'm gonna hear about it.
Yeah.
But just to know that we shared the most intimate moments driving back and forth, and every hospital visit, I felt like I needed to be there.
Okay.
The nights, and we communicated, and she would share her heart all the time. So she always would tell me, Mom, I want to be like you when I grow up. I'm like, no, I want you to be better than me.
Right.
Don't be like me. Be 3 times better than I could ever be. But as a mother, she respected me that much.
Okay.
And she always would say, I want Amore to have the values that we had growing up. So the things, but when it came down to the time where she never saw it coming. She never saw it coming for Miche. She continued to believe God. It was, Miche, we have to leave out of ICU, and we're going into this room where it's hospice. The same God that kept me through the ICU is going to keep me through hospice. She just who she was. So she never, only until maybe the very end moments when it was there, but even during the toughest times, she never once doubted God.
So she she saw brighter days at
Always.
all costs.
It didn't even matter. It didn't matter what they said. Her faith was truly unmatched.
So that is a testament to who you are as a parent. Like, you've done your job. I mean, as a parent, I'm sure you probably have some, things that you felt as though you could have done better. But as far as she is concerned, as she stated, she wanted to be like you.
Yeah.
So, the drive that she had, the relationship with God, all that came from you.
Well, to God be the glory for that. But and my example was my dad.
Okay.
His relationship with God was something that I've always admired. His dedication to prayer and fasting, and I'm like, I ain't getting up at 5 o'clock anymore, because I was originally raised Muslim. So yeah, and it was up into my 30s, and that was God too, because we needed a different way of handling our faith journey going forward with Miche. We needed, I needed the guidance of the Holy Spirit, which in Islam that wasn't what was taught. It was absolutely God, love God. There's only one, whether they call him Allah, God, it's the same God. But the absence of the Holy Spirit for me was felt. I felt the difference once I became a Christian. And and she caught fire to it and ran with it. Yeah, so it's a blessing.
It is. So now I don't want to pry too much, but I just want to know if when that time came, did she talk to Amor, like to have that conversation with her?
She did. So, gosh, it's still difficult to talk about when it comes to Eric, but during that time she was doing fine, and then the unfortunate events that happened to Eric, I think, shifted things with her emotionally. They were, and even though, so it was just, and you could see the draining, and you could see that was the shift. So even though, at some point, even up until before his services, his homegoing, she had stopped talking. So for like 3 days, she was home, and they were expecting her to pass at home. And she wasn't talking or anything. And her brother came home, and when he came through the door, she kind of came around. Okay. I'm like, I've been by your side this whole time.
Right. You come
your
in
sister, right?
You come in
and she started. Yeah, she came around a little bit, but then she had some chest issues. So we called the ambulance, and they gave us a choice of, I think, Maryview. Okay. Right, so we ended up going to Oversea, but it's and that was God too, because we never really, the only thing we did at Oversea in the past was radiation, which was a blessing there. We love Dr. Archie. He was her cancer radiologist. But we would always go to Centura Norfolk General. So they had her file. Dr. Cross, who was her oncologist here in Virginia when she couldn't get to Johns Hopkins for an emergency purposes, would come there. And for that particular time, we had to go to Oversea. And so she's like, this ain't my normal hospital. But when I tell you, gosh, I get emotional thinking about it, because Oversea opened up their heart for her. They didn't know her, but in the ICU, nurses were crying, they were praying, they were loving on her. And then when we had to make the decision to go into a different area of the hospital because of her, her final days, she wasn't going to be able to go home because of some things going on with her, open wounds and things. So the care would have been better just to let her stay in the hospital to transition, is what they were thinking. And they would, different, be 24 hours, and here we go a week later. But what I asked them to do is, I said, do whatever you have to do to bring my baby around, to get her to talk, so that she can have that time with her daughter. Okay. And so that was going on, and it was difficult because, the situation with Eric was still so fresh and so hard. But I knew Miche was transitioning because God told me before the doctors told me. So when I knew that was happening, I just wanted to make sure that Amor and Miche had as much time together as possible. So I knew that we had a small window for her to talk to her child and bond with her and love on her and say whatever she needed to say to her. And so I was really trying to protect her. Like, no, I know what's going on, but she really needs to be here with her mom right now. So that was the most difficult part of all of it, not speaking it into existence, so people, and not being able to share that with people at the time, because at that point my job was to protect her. Absolutely. And in those moments, and not allow a bunch of different people around or know all of what was going on, because I didn't want anybody speaking death over her before it was time. Right. And so, yeah.
So when God told you, before the doctors told you, honestly, how were you? What was going through your mind at the time?
You know, gosh, seeing the drastic changes, I knew in my heart that her spirit was going to outlive her physical because of the drastic physical changes. But as long as she was willing to fight, I was going to fight with her. And so at that time, I decided to come out and have a surgery that I had put off for like a long time because I wanted to be there with her. And I did that because God was preparing. He literally said, her time is ending. I couldn't even go to him and say, God, give me 15 more years.
Right.
I knew when he said at that time that that's where we were, that's what it would be. And I had to accept that. I did my crying and whatever, but I didn't try to push the limit with him in that moment because I felt that that's what it is.
Right.
So I took the time out from work to have that surgery, which gave me more time with her. And so I'm in one room and she's in the other room and we FaceTiming each other until it was she got sick and we had to take her to the hospital because of pain and things like that. But yeah, I knew I accepted it in the night before. My prayer when she got to that point was, and I'm blessed. I'm truly blessed and I love God with all of my soul because when I tell you, my prayer was, God, I could be in the bathroom, I could be around the corner, I could be going to get coffee. Don't let that happen, that my baby leave this earth and I'm not by her side.
Right.
And he honored that. I went to get my coffee and hot tea and I came back and I put something out on Facebook that day because I knew it was time, but I also knew that I had to help her. And helping her was the hardest thing that I will ever do in my life, to be able to walk away from this side and go to where she needed to be, where she can have her total peace.
Right.
And that was extremely challenging, more than challenging. There is no word for that. But I put on some worship music and we was in worship, and even though she was no longer speaking, she could still hear, right? And she would just have this moan every time that I knew that the spirit was moving. And then I put on Whitney Houston, and it got to the point where Whitney was singing, and don't ask me to sing because I can't sing. I sound like I can sing, but the Lord didn't give me that.
Right.
It's something like I rushed to his arms, or I rushed. When she got to that point, is when Miche started to transition, and I just held her hands and told her to let my hand go and go with God, and she took her last 3 breaths, and she went on.
That has to be, I really can't imagine, that, what it was like for you, because, I just, the natural side is like, no.
Yeah.
But the spiritual side, so it's like, it could have been like a tug of war thing. But when it happened, you was just like, okay, God.
Yeah, the final phase, when I knew she was having to leave me, you would never, any parent that loved their child won't want their child to suffer.
Okay.
And at that point, it would have been a suffering to just continue. And at that point, you just say, I'm not going to it's like, I'm going to help you.
Yeah.
And you realize you can't be selfish anymore.
Absolutely.
And hold on to someone and keep praying when their physical has totally deteriorated, right? The physical is no more. Even though her spirit was amazing till the end. Like, she was not going to let her mama go, her daughter go. She loved her family. And she would say a lot of that. I mean, I have a lot of it recorded, in that last week for her, that I can always have. But she mentioned a lot of things. There was times when she was no longer here. And people can believe what they want to believe about it, but when she was in that space, I truly believe that was as close to death before she died that she could ever be. And when she finally came back around, all she could tell us is all the different things that she saw when she was dreaming, sleeping, or away. And she just kept saying, tell Uncle Shy he ain't crazy. Because most people know my brother's a mess, but tell him he ain't crazy. All this stuff he talk about is real, it's true. And she talked about the ancestors a lot and how they're with us. And it was amazing. She just, when she came around, she talked for 24 hours straight.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Yeah. And she was like, Mom, you see here? I'm right here. Mm-hmm. And then, you got my back, I got your back. Right. But I wanted to say, can you go to, but I let her. And I recorded as much. The phone died, put the recording back on, and just, and she just at one point was like, how much she loved, Amora, and how loyal and faithful she had been. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing that I will never forget, and it broke me. And then she just kept saying, I'm loyal and I'm faithful to my family. I'm loyal and I'm faithful to Eric. I'm loyal and faithful to Amora. Like she just kept repeating it, and I was like, okay, baby, I got it. Yeah, I get it. Let's change the subject. So I'm trying to talk about other things, but
But that's absolutely true though, because I've been around a couple of my family members who have transitioned, in the home and stuff like that when they're on hospice. And they do speak of people that are going on. They do speak of, certain things. And you're sitting there, you're like,
right.
Huh?
Like, how did you even know that? Things
right. So it is actually true.
It's
I don't
wild.
Want to see that side yet. But, so,
right.
like my aunt a couple of months ago, she was talking to her sisters.
Okay.
They were going on. She was telling them, like, no, I'm not, no, don't come get me. She even said that it's her other sister that they want. Yeah. I mean, she was having like real conversations to where you're kind of like intrigued a little bit, but then you're kind of nervous and like, well, what's going on?
Right. Because you really think like, is she what's going on here? But her messages were so prophetic.
Okay.
She talked. I felt like now that I'm looking back on it, maybe it had more to do where we would be in throughout the pandemic, where the pendulum, she kept talking about this pendulum is swinging and you gotta try to make your way through before the pendulum stops swinging, and she just would not, she was going on and on and on, but it was truly fascinating. And she spent her time talking to her sister and her brother and her dad, and then she was like, I don't want to talk to him because he was trying to make sense out of what she said, but he wasn't getting it, and she got frustrated. So I'm like, you just be quiet.
Yeah. So how is her sister and her brother? Because I understand that they were close.
Yeah, extremely close. It's still hard. It's still hard. Bree is still struggling. They're both still. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It's losing a sibling is difficult, especially they weren't expecting it, even though they saw it. Right. They never expected it. And then, they felt a little bit upset with me because I sent them home that night because I knew. Wow. And I knew, but I thought maybe they had a chance of getting back there in time, but at 5:30, God says, okay, let's go with me. Come with me.
And she didn't fight. She just went on.
No, she took her last 3 breaths and she went on, and she was at peace.
So now when you look back at it, it seems like everything, like sometimes when you're going through the motions, everything is kind of like all over the place. Right. So like now, I'm sure things are kind of like lining up where you got a better understanding, or things are clearer.
Right.
So some things that she may have said or done, you probably like.
That's why you said
like
that.
Now you have time to sit back and reflect. Yeah. But it's a good thing because it gives you that time and that, to spend with her, and the memories and stuff like that. Yeah. But I have enjoyed you, even though we had technical difficulties at the beginning. But
you guys are doing a phenomenal job. This is amazing. Keep up the great work. So I'm excited that you guys, now that we're done, now I can say I'm excited you guys invited me. No, but I appreciate it any time that I can get out there and talk about Miche and her journey and her faith. if it encourages one person, if it prevents one person from, and this is the one thing that I do want to say. I really want to say this, and I'm gonna be quick.
Okay, go ahead. You go ahead. I'm just telling her she's just standing on the side.
Miche loved life so much. It breaks my heart to see all of these killings, right?
Right.
I'm like, it breaks my heart to see people who chooses to commit suicide as well, but I understand that that's a different struggle. And people will say, oh, people that do that are cowards. In my opinion, people that do that are courageous, because I could not.
Right.
But not glorifying it, you just don't know where people are. So be kind to everyone.
Right.
If you don't have anything good to say about somebody, then just don't say anything at all.
That's right.
But the killing crushes my soul, because I'm like, man, y'all don't understand. People fight for life, and it's so easy for you to just take someone's life.
Just like that.
Just like that.
Just like
It
that.
bothers me. It bothers me. It really does.
I'm sure it
Yeah.
does. And then because you have a direct,
Yeah.
relation,
With
in
a
regards to
situation
that.
like
Right.
that. Yeah.
But before we go, if you could speak to a parent who may be going down the same road as you, what type of words of encouragement would you give them?
Fight for your child. Listen to them. Be patient with them. Hear them. Be there in a way that no one else can. Don't back down. Talk to
Right.
the doctors. Do your own research. Try multiple different things. Don't let any physician, anyone say that there is no hope, there's nothing else we can do, and seek God first. But there are so many people that we've spoken to, thousands of people that we've spoken to over these years, 15
Right.
years of dealing with that, whether through Johns Hopkins or the different places, and they all, admired Miche's journey. But the one thing that I can say is I had her back, and I wasn't going to allow anyone to give up on her. So you have to be an advocate for your child, and just fight for them, fight with them, and fight for them.
Right.
It is very crucial. And then you do all you can do, and don't blame yourself. Once you have done all that you can, you have given all that you can, you've given the love and the support. It's just not enough resources out there. It's not enough, and it's expensive. Being sick costs. It costs a lot. So, you don't be afraid to ask people for help. Don't be afraid to reach out to other people and let people in. Some people want to be so private and coveted to it, but you don't know who else you can bless or who else can help you on your journey. You don't have to tell them all your business, you don't have to tell them all, but let people in.
Right, definitely talk to God and
talk to him
and
first.
ask him to, send people your way.
That's
your,
right.
Your way. But this is really my last question, though, for real.
Wait again.
If Miche, how would put it this way, with Miche, what would you? No, let me see. Miche, right? That's your daughter.
Yes.
You knew her well.
Yes.
As best as you could. Okay, gotcha. How now? Being that she was who she, I'm gonna say is, because she still is.
She is.
How would she want to be remembered?
Oh my goodness. She's an advocate for children. She's an educator. She's a fighter. She did not quit. She did not give up, and she would be remembered as. She was so much love and encouragement, and I would pray that people would honor her, and they do. So many people honor her, and she would want people to remember and say her name and remember who she is and what she stood on. She believed in herself. You hear me? She loved herself, so Miche, and she was so proud of herself, and she never quit. And that's the other thing. She just didn't believe in quitting. So those are the things that I think: her faith, the fact that she's a great mom, she loved her daughter, just all the characteristics that you could think of that are great and grand. She wouldn't have a problem with you guys remember her in that way, because she fought. She fought like hell to stay here,
Right.
and she fought like hell to not go, and she fought like hell to make sure that people's children would get tutored. Even on her sick bed, she was tutoring.
Right.
But in the hospital, she tutoring kids, and I'm like, she put that phone down. She's like, no, because he in there failing. He in school acting a fool, and I taught him that last week. And going off, and
Right.
they come in there. So I can go on and on all day long about Miche, because she was a lot, and that lot is a great thing.
That's a great
It was a
thing.
great thing. That lot is
Absolutely.
good.
And I just want to again thank you for
Thank you.
coming on
Thank
and
y'all.
just being transparent about because it was your journey too.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, and just letting people know that basically to
Keep
pray
living.
and to keep living.
Keep
You know,
living.
don't let that whatever you're diagnosed with
Be the
consume
end.
you. Yeah.
It can't be. That can't be the end of your story.
Right.
It
Absolutely.
can't be you. People will. Don't let people just characterize you as cancer
Right.
or
Absolutely.
diabetes or whatever it is. You are who God say you are, and you
Absolutely.
live up to that. And you continue to be great and live every single day. Every day is valuable. Live,
And with that, y'all,
Live.
you heard it, live.
live.
So with that being said, we'll see you guys next week on Wait a Damn Minute podcast.
Wait a damn minute. Tune in
Look.
Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7 p.m.
Okay,
See?
now. All right.
That's exactly what we're talking about. So with that being said, you guys have a good night, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Good night.
Good night.